Season's greetings, gang. I'm Luke and welcome to Down from the Attic. Well, we're at the end of another year and another year with COVID. Still, this is the time of year where family and loved ones get together, and when that happens, board games get brought out. And I've got a really good game for you and your family to play this Christmas, one that I'm definitely going to recommend to you. This is Ticket to Ride. Let's get this thing down and have a look at it. First off, box art. And this is a really gorgeous and detailed box. It kind of reminds me of a children's book illustration. Trains, cities, fat cats owning railroads. It gets across pretty quickly the theme of the game, so on to contents. There's the board, which itself is quite large. 5 wooden point tracker tokens, 5 bags containing train carriage pieces, a large stack of train cards, a smaller deck of destination ticket cards, the longest journey card, and a small rules recap card. Setup. And this is a relatively quick affair. Each player places their wooden point tracker on the 100 around the edge of the board. This doubles as the 0 and the start place. The train cards are all shuffled and put into one pile. 4 are dealt to each player, and players are to keep their cards secret. Five cards are drawn and laid out in a line next to the train pile face up, so all players can see the different colours of cards there. Each player is also given 3 destination tickets. Players can discard any one of these, but they have to keep 2. Players may also opt to keep all 3, but they have to have at least 2 destination cards. Each player has 45 little train car pieces set to one side. The player who last went on a train goes first, and we're ready to play. In Ticket to Ride, your aim is to complete the journeys of your destination tickets by matching carriage colours to their tracks and claiming stretches of track across the USA. As long as you can link those 2 cities by your train lines, you've completed the routes. You'll be aiming to complete routes, block off lines for your competition, and to have the most comprehensive sprawling network out there. But your opponents will be aiming to do the same thing. Who will be the first to claim the rails? In a turn, a player can do one of 3 things. A player may draw 2 cards from the 5 available and viewable to all players. Drawing one means that another replaces it before a second choice is made. Players can also blind draw from the top of the deck if there's nothing viewable that can help them. In either case, the player draws 2 cards and these are added to their hand. Second, a player may draw more destination ticket cards should they choose. They draw 3, can discard 2, but must keep 1. Third, and most importantly, a player can lay out their coloured carriages down on a stretch of track between 2 cities in order to claim that route. But how is this done? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. To claim a stretch of track, a player needs the same number of coloured carriages to match that track. So, for example, 3 orange track segments would need 3 orange carriages in order to claim it. The player lays out to all players the cards they're playing and places their carriages on that line. These cards are then put into a discard pile. Depending on the length of a stretch of rail and the length of train cards used affects how many points are earned. The shortest distance, a single car, is worth 1 point, whereas a train route that's 6 cars long is worth 15, so going for some of those larger lines is really worth doing. But you'll need as many cards that colour to claim the line. Using your wooden token around the board, you can keep track of the points you earn. So matching coloured cards to coloured tracks is how you'll go about claiming routes and working towards connecting those destinations on your destination cards. But the game has a few ways to make this a little easier for players. First, when drawing carriage cards, you might be lucky enough to draw an engine. Engines act as a choose your own colour for any carriage. So you need 4 blue carriages but only have 3? You could use an engine for your 4th. This is incredibly handy for getting the locations you know you're going to need and routes you're desperate to complete. Another way the game helps out is with having these grey track areas. These can be claimed with a full set of any colour carriages, so this stretch here could be claimed with 4 red cards, or 4 yellow cards, or 4 black. Again, this makes it easier for you to start building routes and claiming tracks, but it also makes it easier for your opponents. Despite the simplicity of the actual mechanics to this game, there is a substantial amount of strategy and gameplay to Ticket to Ride. You're aiming to complete the routes of your destination tickets, but you've only got a certain number of carriage pieces, so you need to be quite economic with them. I find at the start of the game me looking at my destination cards and figuring out the best way to connect them all. Each of your destination cards doesn't require a separate train line between the 2 points, oh no, so you can get clever and inventive with your routes, and adaptive too, because you're not the only one with plans at the table. Your opponents will be landing track in places that you may desperately need, and this might be because the routes on their cards pass through similar points. In fact, it's almost inevitable that certain cards will. And the other reason? A player may see that you need a spot and building it, just to be a dick. Yep, there's options to be a jerk in this game, but that's at the expense of your own pieces. Is it worth doing that to prevent your opponents getting points? Or could those carriages be used to net you winning points? There's a fair amount of choice and decision here. The train lines you're building don't have to connect, so strategic track claiming is a big part of this game, getting sections you know you'll need before an opponent. You'll be sweating hoping for a carriage card of the colour you need to come up. Certain track sections have two side by side, allowing one player to claim one and another player to claim the other. Again, this can massively help you, and some of these sections are used quite frequently in the journeys, so grabbing these early on is pretty advisable. Completing journeys on your destination tickets nets you the points listed on that card, and these points vary on the distance between the 2 points. A journey that's maybe 3 different stops might net you around 7 to 8 points. But a route that goes all the way across the board, from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic, well, that's worth a lot more, because more carriages are used, and it's such a feat to try and connect those 2 places without an opponent's interruption. The other reason why I'll be desperate to try and complete those destination tickets is because, if you don't, the value on the card becomes a negative, and all the points you've earned from claiming routes can be quickly whittled away. It's also important to consider if it's beneficial to you to draw more destination tickets. Is it worth doing that when you've only got a handful of carriages left to build with? Have you got routes and tracks laid down already that go through those points? It's a bit of a gamble to what cards you'll draw, and if they'll help you get more points. When one player has 2 or less carriages, every player has 2 more turns of claiming routes, drawing carriages, or destination tickets, and the game ends. For every completed journey, the points are added to that player's score. For every failed journey, the points are removed. There's also an additional longest journey card that's worth 10 points, so having a good, long, continuous route is something to work towards. The player with the most points wins the game, and that is Ticket to Ride. So, final thoughts? Ticket to Ride recently passed the bracket from modern classic into just classic game on how I categorise my board games, but make no mistake, this is a modern classic through and through. This is a staple, a gold standard, and a game you and your family should absolutely be playing this Christmas. It goes without saying, I absolutely love this game. I've had this game for about 3 years, and I have recommended it to my personal friends who've gone off and bought it and loved it as well. The gameplay is quick to explain to people and quick to teach, but it hides an enormous amount of subtlety as to how this game is played. Everyone is aiming to complete routes. There'll be routes that are claimed that you'll have to build around. It's a fun game with light bits of strategy, thinking and forward planning. With using cards to claim track routes and for destination tickets, these act as a fantastic randomising element, and no 2 games will ever be quite the same. However, not content with this, there's been a slew of variants to Ticket to Ride: the European version, United Kingdom, London, New York, Rails and Sails, Japan, First Journey, India, Asia. Each of these has a new map, routes, and in some cases, variants of vehicle to place and complete routes with. Ticket to Ride has endured because it's an incredibly fun game. With each turn your strategy is changing, where you're going to build next, what lines you're going to claim, and also plotting different routes because opponents have claimed lines that you know you need. Young kids are going to pick this up really quickly. All the mechanics are very simple to get your head around, and they'll start strategizing too and blocking paths off that you need. I highly recommend playing this game. It is a true modern classic. Well, to everybody watching, I hope you have a fantastic Christmas and all the very best for 2022. And as always, I'm Luke. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. If you like what I'm doing here on Down from the Attic, please consider liking the video and subscribing. Comments are always welcome, and I'll see you in the next video.